Now, I always tell people, I'm like, do I go take a nap at noon when I'm done for the day, or do I like have to go pound on some doors to say like I'm Audrey with Eco Serve? And it's like you've never done it before. A lot freaking harder than you think it would be to face the fact that you have to grow this thing at 21 years old.
This is the PMP Industry Insider Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome out to another episode of the PMP Industry Insider Podcast, where we take a look at what is changing in the pest and lawn industries, and we take you to the front lines to those that are driving those changes. I'm Donnie Shelton, owner of Triangle Home Services, which has Triangle Pest as well as Triangle Lawn. And with me is, as always, for better, for worse, through sickness and in health. Should I say that? Should we keep going? Yeah. Mr. Dan Gordon. Dan, would you like to say good morning? We're recording this in the morning. Talk about our sponsors, talk about the peer groups, of course, our topic, and our very, very special guest. And I will spoiler alert, that actually is not us this time. A lot of times I do say that. So, all right, let's do it.
Let's see if I can get through this without screwing it up. So, good morning, Dan Gordon, PCO bookkeepers and M&A specialists. We do accounting for the pest and lawn industry, as well as exit planning services. Our sponsors, and we have three big ones. The first one is if you're interested in marketing for the industry, whether it's digital or traditional marketing, that would be Colmarch. And right now they're offering the first month free for podcast listeners. And if you're interested in taking advantage of that, visit colmarch.com/podcast to claim that offer. PestSure, if you have insurance needs in the pest or lawn industry, they are tailor-made for pest and lawn. And PestSure understands the risks of our business and offers coverages to fit your needs. Learn more at pestsure.com. And finally, who I got to see, I was at the Ignite conference and I got to see all the people from Voice for Pest. They're doing some amazing things. And they are an industry leader in designing and implementing unparalleled voice solutions for PCOs of any size coast to coast. Learn more at voiceforpest.com/podcast. And if you're interested in, if you're feeling good about yourself and you want to be knocked down a few pegs and whatnot, join one of our peer groups.
Whoa, hang on now. Knocked down?
Absolutely.
No,
That's what.
Come on.
Peer groups are a great way to talk to people who are in the industry who are willing to share information, not your direct competitors, people around the country and whatnot. And we've got about 6 or 7 of those groups going. And our facilitator right now, David Billingsley, who is a rock star. And if you want to hear him, go back to episode 136 for more information, or just email us about the peer groups. And today's topic, building business, industry, and community with our guest, Audrey Hall. So Audrey is president of Eco Serve Pest in Buffalo. It gets pretty cold in Buffalo. Audrey is a second-generation business owner and a pest industry advocate and engaged member of the community. She's quite well decorated. Her leadership experience includes president of the University Buffalo Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership. I want to hear more about that. Board of directors of NPMA, regional director of New York Pest Management, and some similar others. She's been recognized with several business and industry honors: Buffalo Business First Best Places to Work 2024 and 25 runner-up, Buffalo Business First Family Business Award, NPMA Gives Award, 30 under 30. Should I keep going?
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
You get a big head. But anyway, welcome, Audrey. Now that I used up half the time to give all your accolades.
Right. What more is there to say?
Yeah, we're so happy to have you here. And anyway, let's start from the beginning. So Audrey's been a client of ours for quite a while, and she does some really amazing things with her company and her stewardship of the industry. But how'd you get started?
My story is super interesting. I am, like you said, I'm second generation. I kind of say like it's usually like with a unique twist. Because most of the time people sort of inherit a company that's established, or they just like out of nowhere come across the pest control industry and start and do this really cool thing. I am sort of this anomaly where I grew up in the business. My dad, like you mentioned, Dan, was a part of Buffalo Exterminating. My mom was the HR manager, moved to Buffalo when I was like 4. And so at the time, the company was doing like $500,000 in work. And so they grew that with the main owner, Gary Tank, and sold that in 2015. At the time, they were doing about $10 million worth of work. So I was able to work in all the departments. I was able to go out in the field. I was in marketing. I was doing phone calls. I did HR for my mom, OSHA reports, all sorts of weird stuff that I got involved in. And on the weekends, my dad had a secondary company called Eco Serve, and that was about an hour and a half north of the Buffalo region, where we have a place on Lake Ontario. And we would this is what I do on my weekends with my dad. Like, we'd have a couple larger factories that we'd be in charge of, but we'd be doing houses, cottages for spiders. And so I got to see both of those. Graduated college in 2012, took Eco Serve over. At the time, it was $32,000 worth of work a year. So maybe like 1 day a week worth of work, I was out there doing the work. And then it was like, okay, now I always tell people, I'm like, do I go take a nap at noon when I'm done for the day? Or do I like have to go pound on some doors to say like, I'm Audrey with Eco Serve? And it's like, you've never done it before. It's a lot freaking harder than you think it would be to just have to face the fact that you have to grow this thing at 21 years old. And so now I'm president of a company with, I think we've got 27 people right now. I've got an incredible team, and just definitely I love the community side of what we do. I love being a part of something bigger than ourselves. My belief is that pest control is a vector for some other cool things that we're able to do and give back and stuff like that. So that's kind of my purpose, and that's where we're at right now.
That's impressive. So just your mom and dad built a company from basically nothing to 10 million. Is that what I heard?
Not exactly. I would say my dad got recruited by Gary Tank to the Buffalo area, and so there was a pretty established company already. And so the idea was that my dad, John Zimmerman, would be the general manager and sort of do the day-to-day operation stuff and sort of see Gary's vision through. And as time went on, he obviously grew in ownership and leadership and stuff like that. And so him and Gary were very hand in hand on the growth of the business. But I was extremely fortunate to be able to see that. I think a lot of times in our industry, if you're born into it, you don't necessarily get to be in the weeds as much as I was. Or be, I'll talk more about it. It's like I traveled, like my vacation was Pets World or associated conferences. And like, that's when I got to go see different really cool places. And so that was the way that was my experience growing up. But it's weird because I didn't take over a $10 million company. I took over $32,000 with the knowledge of how to grow a business to 10 million.
So basically
that's
what your dad did was, in order for you to go on vacation, he figured he would start a route on Lake Ontario, and that's where you would vacation, and he would make you work.
He made Saturdays at 5 a.m. seem like a dream. Let's get up. I think there was days where I made like 100, 150 bucks, and I thought it was the best thing in the entire world. I'd crash at like 6 p.m. My mom was like, we're going to have company over tonight. My dad and I were like, get the hell out of here. Send them away. We're exhausted.
Oh, that's so funny.
So did you always know, I guess, when you were growing up and you went in to visit Buffalo Exterminating and whatnot, did you know that you wanted to be in this business, or it was just kind of like a way to make some extra cash?
No, I remember, it's a funny story. I think we were in Boston at Associated when I was, might have been Pest World, 12 or 13 years old, and we were at a dinner with Matt Nixon. And so like the kiddos went to go to dinner with a bunch of like these other industry mega leaders. And we went around the room and we said, what do you want to do when you grow older? And I was like, no, absolutely not. I'm not going to kill bugs for a living. I appreciate what you guys do. I appreciate the vacations, but I don't want anything to do with this. And Matt was like, we'll see how that goes. And so I went for physical therapy my first year. It not as smart as I thought I was, I think, in the science department. And so my dad said, hey, just do what you want, but Eco Serve Therapy want it. And I knew the business. I was passionate about meeting people and learning about their stories and serving people. And so it kind of from there, I got my business degree and took it from there.
Wow. That's kind of cool. So you talked about being involved in Associated. Can you just kind of walk us through what you did and how you got involved in that? It sounds like your parents are part of that, and it sounds like you're still a part of it. Is that correct?
Yeah. I just about a month ago we got back from our conference in Portland, Maine. I so Associated is a peer group across the country, and we meet a couple times a year. And it's sort of a more intimate version, sort of a think tank where we get together. We have a couple days of topics and discussion around what's working, what's not working, what's new in the industry. We share our numbers, we share our financials. We really get down into the nitty gritty. And growing up, it was I got to go to the receptions, and I was the kid with all the other kids. So like Sarah Thomas and Jen
Uh-huh.
McCall and
Uh-huh.
so Jen Marlowe, I guess at the time. But so it was all these kids that were going to these association, these meetings, and that's. But now I look back, and some of us stuck around, some of us chose different paths, and it's those people are family. I mean, I that's an opportunity for me as a business owner, as a mom, as a community leader to be around people who just completely inspire you. That's a huge part of my success. That's kind of I think a secret sauce of people who find success in their life is just be surrounded by people with where you want to be and people who are, uplift you to continue to push yourself to be better.
So let's
So
talk about that because
wait,
I was
wait,
going
wait.
to say,
Associated is a big vacation club where you do some work.
oh, come on. No,
We
I've
can't
been
talk
there.
about that on air. We're not allowed. I signed a contract. There's like a privacy disclosure thing. There's no
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
whitey
we've been a sponsor for I don't know 10 years,
dad.
and
Okay.
I always it's my favorite show because you don't have to bring a booth or anything, and you just get to hang out with great people and
Yeah,
share ideas. So it's pretty
so
cool.
true.
So you talked about getting involved, and it sounds like obviously you've taken on a leadership role at NPMA. You've taken on also at the New York Pest Management Association as well as some business groups. Can you walk everyone through like what are you doing? What have you done? And then why did you choose to go that route? Because a lot of folks would say, well, I just simply don't have time for that, so I'm not gonna get involved. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, I think so initially I really kicked off my sort of industry getting more involved on a more regular basis through the executive leadership program in 2017. It was the very first class that they started. And so I kind of put my hat in the ring and didn't really expect much to come out of it. And I, was selected with 9 other folks in the industry. And so that was a huge opportunity. I will say to this day, that was a huge part of me finding my path in the industry. Even if I wasn't second generation, or even if no one knew my dad, they gave me the opportunity to be at these meetings and to shake hands with the board of directors and just sort of get a taste for what it's like. And I will say a lot. I feel like there's this really big divide in our industry, right? You've got these multi-billion-dollar companies, and these folks are just regulars at these industry events, and they have time and they have resources and energy to put into it. And then you have these, a majority of the industry is under, I think it's like 85% of companies are under $2 million. Dan,
Oh,
correct me if I'm
easily,
wrong.
easily.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So you have this really small segment of folks and you have this huge segment, I guess, of our market who doesn't know sort of what our association's like, what the backbone of our industry is all about. And ELP gave me that opportunity, and it really opened my eyes and what being a part of that can mean for my business, for me personally, for my community, bringing back those ideas. And I'm heavily involved in a lot of business networking here in Buffalo too, and it's interesting to hear how many people when we're workshopping something, I'm like, well, where's your industry? Have you considered talking with your industry about this? There must be something, because NPMA is this big thing in the state associations, and they're like, well, we don't really have that, and it kind of blows my mind.
We're
But
pretty organized.
well, it's probably less work. I would say maybe kind of a structural mess, but
No,
yeah, I think that there's a lot of people who don't recognize the value of that. And so when I got involved, it was kind of like, pedal to the metal, get involved, meet new people. And I'm also one of the type of people that if I'm in a meeting, I'm not going to waste my time just sitting there listening. If anyone has ever sat in a room with me, I won't shut up. Which is not, I don't think that's great leadership quality, but I also, if I have something to say, I want to be able to share my opinion and have a voice.
You have that. You and Donnie have that in common.
Whoa, whoa. By the way, I haven't talked to Dan in a couple of weeks, so you can tell we just
He was out there. Where were you in Africa, elephant hunting
oh,
or
stop.
something?
Anyway, yes. So, all right. So I actually, you know what? That's actually a really good point. And I think, and I even say myself for this, there's a lot of folks who can be reminded that, the reality of it is the more you're involved in building up everyone else, the more you're going to learn. And I think, you should make time. You absolutely should make time to be a part of the associations, make time to be a part of even, even national. And I say national because, sometimes, I mean, for me, at least, it's easier to be involved in the state on the state side because it's more convenient and it seems more applicable. But certainly, I think at the national level, it's even just as much. So, so yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that point.
But I think
Go
a
ahead.
lot of what you participate, and then you are able to, what you've built there is a culmination of a lot of people's input and whatnot that you would have never met if you didn't get involved. So
Mhm.
that's, you put in, but you also get out, which is pretty neat.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
interesting to reflect back to like all the times, all the pest worlds we've been to, all the legislative days we've been to, all of the state association meetings that folks have been to. If you just take a look back and you sort of sit there and reflect on the evolution of your company, you can kind of see where some of the changes that you've made would never have happened if you hadn't met that person at the bar, or if you hadn't listened to that person do a talk on something. You know what I mean? So it's just it's 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 sometimes we're going so fast in our day to day, and we're always looking to the future that sometimes it's hard to stop and reflect back on the impact that all of the culmination of all of these things have made on our lives and our businesses and the people that work at our businesses. And um, it's interesting.
So, so let's talk about that. Like, if you were to look back and think about, everything that you're involved in, what kind of impact has that had on EcoServe? Like, and really you as a leader and then also kind of the direction that you've decided to take the company and kind of where you're at now. Can you just kind of walk through that for everyone?
Yeah, I think I I found that this being involved in different levels will teach you something entirely different. Like you were saying, Donnie, the state associations are more acceptable. So relatively, so our state association in New York is really more in the city. So it's 7.5, 8 hour drive, but there's a lot more access to those type of meetings than there would be to hop on a plane, and financially, of course.
Right.
I think for me over the course of my career, I have found that there's just um, we've all been at some point in our career along the same path. We've all faced some of the similar challenges, and I think that there's a lot to be said about getting involved. And my involvement. I think one of the points I want to make is that I kind of come and go in waves. And I think that's completely okay. I think it's okay to be involved in your state association, which was a period of my life. I think I transitioned into the national association, kind of jumped both feet in for a few years. And, that I kind of really worked at that for a little while and put a lot of energy into it. And so now I'm kind of at a period in my life where I'm focusing more on my team and the growth of the business and the community involvement. There was also a time in my life where I stayed more local and I was on some boards locally. And so it's just, I feel like each of those different periods of time, there's a reason why you're doing that. And that's okay. You don't have to do all things at all times. I think sometimes leaders think that they have to be all things at all times. And so, but my view is like, I've sort of transitioned to different areas, and I think every time has taught me a little something different. But I also feel like, as you grow, as your business evolves, you're at a different place. And so you just kind of have to apply what works best for you at that period of your life.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Dan,
So,
were you going to say something?
yeah, tell me about, you're pretty involved in professional women in pest management, right? And that, part of NPMA.
I know a lot of women who are. I wouldn't say I'm as involved as actually most people are, honestly. My thing is like I'm a big believer of supporting small business. Like that's my thing. That's the thing that lights me on fire. Like I know what it's like being the only one on your team going, how the heck am I going to I was pregnant at, in 2015. I was in the labor room taking yellow jacket phone calls while I was, laboring. So it's just stuff like that, that if you've never experienced it, I mean, both of you have never experienced laboring a child, I believe. I don't think you
No,
have
no,
I don't know.
you're pretty safe on that one.
Yeah, you're good on that.
science. I
Yeah,
don't know. Maybe,
yeah,
who knows?
safe
No.
on that
Um,
one.
Me
but
anyway. I know that.
yeah, for sure. But I think that there's something to be said about the grit of small business owners and the stuff that they have to go through. And like, so that's my passion. It's like, I am so fortunate. I feel so blessed to be in the place that I am. I feel like I got here because of a lot of other people supporting me and sort of this circumstance that I was given growing up. So to me, that's like my thing, is to just try to find a way to continue to support those small businesses, all the work that they do, and um, the little guys make a difference.
It's interesting. When we first started, we dealt with a lot of small businesses and we'd put these spreadsheets together and tell people why they couldn't do something, why it wouldn't work. And you never bet against the will of an entrepreneur, right? I can show you on a spreadsheet why it'll never work. It's not supposed to work. And then I can tell you so many stories where it did work and it worked, you know, uh, you know,
I had a college professor. I was in an entrepreneur class at the University of Buffalo, and I remember I did a project on Eco Serve, and he walked out and he said, this will never amount to anything.
right.
You know, you
Where is he
didn't
now?
do anything. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd love to find him. But it's just like stuff like that you just like those moments that you just remember where you're like, that's funny. Don't count me out. And you know, every day is still a challenge. We're, not immune to that, but I also think that there's something to be said about someone who just really cares about what they're doing and care about the people that they're doing it for. And, just focusing on improving my life, improving my family's life, and those that work with me. And, can't ask for a
So
better life.
I'm getting a picture of you as being super, super, super busy. Why don't you talk everyone through kind of how you prioritize your time, between business and family and association work and those type. Like, can you just kind of walk everyone through your general philosophy of how you prioritize your time and what are your priorities and how do you manage it all and keep all the balls up in the air and keep things going?
You don't. I mean, that's like that you don't. I mean, I tell people all the time like this, it looks together, it is not together. I am a mom to a 10-year-old daughter. I'm a single mom. And I it's interesting. I have an incredible foundation of my parents are the most wonderful people. They live a mile and a half from me. They would drop literally anything that they're doing for me. So I'm extremely blessed in that regard. My team, we've sort of set up a lot of parameters around here. So the day-to-day stuff I found over time, several years ago, kind of looked at my roles and responsibilities, like literally listed them out, like all of the things that I do in the course of a year. And it was like, oh, you suck at that, Audrey, you suck at that. And then it was like, okay, go find someone else that's like really good at that. Like organize more like daily tasks. It's just not, my thing is like more vision, more future, more like how do we get that stuff to happen? And so that's what I did. I was like, okay, well, where are all those little stuff during my day that are sort of like eating up time? And I will say at first it was a very difficult task to get someone else on board with the things that I'm doing. And still a work in progress. There's still stuff that I hold on to that I really shouldn't be holding on to. And there's really no good reason for it. It's just the way that it is right now. But that's one of the things that I've sort of found is that as we've grown, we've been able to financially afford folks in those leadership roles. So office supervisor, service supervisor, director of operations, Mark Picard, has been in the industry. He is fourth generation. He is the right hand to me, the yin to my yang. He's the most organized human being I've ever met in my life, and I rely so heavily on him for things like that, so that I can go and do other things, take my daughter to school, pick her up from school. I mean, I want to be present for those things because I literally, like I said, it felt like I was laboring yesterday, and it's been 10 years. And it's just, it goes by so fast. And so you just kind of got to figure out, again, I can't say it enough. I'm very fortunate. I'm very blessed to be in the position that I am. But we also know that like our team is also, they've also got families. And so, we try to be as flexible as possible with people to know, like, if you've had 18 years with your kids. And they only love you for like, I'm probably down to the wire. She's probably going to stop loving me in like another year or so. Or at
Yeah,
least
and then it
Yeah.
comes back when they're around
Yeah.
20, when they
when they
think you're
need
smart
money.
again. No, when they think so during the teen years you're very dumb, and then they get over that when they realize that you're really smart. So
I'm waiting. He doesn't think I'm that smart right now, to be honest with you.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yep. Yep. No,
But
I get it. I get
So
it.
let's talk about, so you've got 27 people you said, and you handle certain geography. What are the expansion plans? What are 5, 10, 15 years look like for EcoServe?
yeah, so we're really fortunate. I mean, I've seen the expansion of buffalo exterminating in the buffalo market, so I kind of have a general feel for what the market can hold. So we
Mhm.
definitely have a lot more room within our buffalo area to continue to grow and expand. We service all the way to almost to Rochester, and all up Lake Ontario to like Niagara Falls, and then all the way down almost to the Pennsylvania border. So there's a lot of room for growth, and just continuing to focus on our we do both residential and commercial work. We can continue, our residential continues to grow really well. Our biggest focus there is to continue to offer additional services to our current customer base to kind of make sure that we're getting as much revenue and opportunity from those folks that we can, and then continue to grow our commercial line of work too, and with the sales team and things like that as we get bigger. But obviously, I mean, I'm 35 years old. My goal is to retire doing this. I have zero interest in selling. The numbers don't do much for me. This is my passion. This is my life. This is the legacy of my family. And that's something that I have a lot of kind of respect for. So that's my job, is to try to honor that and
You're
do
you're
something
like
good in it.
a lot of entrepreneurs who are totally unemployable. That's why I can't get a job anywhere.
100%. Yeah, no, I could not. I would be a disaster.
Yeah, I'd be fired in no time.
And I don't have, my memory is terrible. So like I go to dinner and I respect the hell out of people who are wait staff, because I could never do it. I'm like, someone would ask for ketchup and I'd be back like 45 minutes later being like, what do you want? Why do you look so
There's the
upset?
mustard.
And terrible, terrible. I'm a very good tipper.
Oh
So,
gosh.
so in terms of expansion, so you're way up in the Great White North. Like for 6 months a year, you've got very cold weather, you've got crazy snow, and operating in the north is much more difficult than the south, although you can keep cash flow by, creating these recurring services.
Sure.
But let's be honest, people who have 3 feet of snow on the ground and you call them about their quarterly service, probably not the best time to do a price increase, right? So how does all that work with the weather and whatnot?
Yeah, so our most of our residential customers, I think we're at 88% of our residential revenue is recurring work. So all of that stuff is basically dedicated to monthly recurring services. So we've got and I would say it's interesting. Buffalo, I think everyone just assumes that we just have snow constantly. And what happens is, yeah, we'll have a few different bouts of just a ton of snow, too much snow. Um, but it gets cleared out, the sun comes out, it kind of melts down, and then you're kind of back to square one. We have vendors in the winter, and they're terrified to come and visit us because they're like, what if I get stuck for 3 months? And I'm like, well, that doesn't happen. And they'll come, and then they'll be like dry pavement, and they're just so confused. They're like, where's the snow? I brought my snowsuit. Like, where's all the stuff? I want to build snowman, and it's like, well, that's fine. I'm sorry. But that's like a 48-hour thing, and then we're kind of back to square one. So we definitely get a bad rap for that, but typically speaking, if there's snow on the ground, we're not going to be able to hit all the bait stations, but we're going to be focusing on other things too. We're going to be looking for entry points and sealing those up. It's more inspection based. If we can get inside for a customer during that time period, absolutely. We want to do that. We want to show face. I still believe our industry is extremely relationship based with our customers. They want to know who you are. They want to know what you stand for. I think that's why our community involvement stuff is so critical. Is that Buffalo is a city of good neighbors. They care that you care and that you're not just the money that they're spending with you, even though we're not the cheapest at all. But they want the money that they're spending is going somewhere important. So that's as far as price increases, we don't do a tremendous. We don't kill them with like 10%. We're usually anywhere from like 3 to 5%. Oftentimes that's on the anniversary date. So I don't know. When you calculate the numbers, you take a look at it and you say, okay, well, we're gonna raise this much money a month, and if we lose this much customers, we're still
Okay.
we're still okay. Yeah.
So is there a big exodus or attrition factor in, say, December, January, February, or not really?
No, you would think.
Yeah.
You would think, but no. And I would say this year is a little bit different. We've had kind of our cancellations have been higher than normal. I'm not, I'm assuming it's probably a product of where we're at in society, but I also think that one of the things that we could do a better job of is contacting our customers and just being a little bit more of an educational resource for them and keeping them in a loop with stuff. And so that's a priority for us right now. To kind of mitigate some of that stuff. So we'll see. Time will tell. Give me 6 months. And
I think we're seeing that industry wide this year as the attrition is up. I mean, if you talk to most people in the industry right now, that's kind of one of the big themes I think that'll be at Pest World. So
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, for sure. We're getting close to the end here, but there's two more questions I want to make sure we get through. And the first one is that I want to talk a little bit. You talked about getting involved in the community, and you talked about how Buffalo is. I think a lot of communities are that way. And so, can you just walk through kind of what it is that you guys do and kind of how it's part of your culture? And then maybe we'll finish off with just some advice that you would give to folks that are listening to this, as far as how to strengthen your community ties. I think that's probably a good way for us to finish out. Yeah.
Yeah, so sort of what we have is called Eco Serve Cares, and so it's just kind of like the arm of our company that gives back, and so I kind of have a budget in mind every year for what I want to do to give back. My team knows that I usually go over that budget because someone will call me. That's what happens when you get friends, is that they all have like really cool things that they're doing, and I'm just sitting there going, well, like, okay, we're doing really well. I can't say no. I can't look at you dead in the face and be like, no, I don't want to save pediatric cancer patients today. So you just have to say yes, right?
Yeah. Oh,
so,
yeah. Yeah.
How do you say no to that?
No, you go to hell. That's what happens. You go to hell, you say no.
That's right.
And they look at you and they're like, I know you're going to hell if you say no. So that's our thing. I mean, it started small back when, it was like donating $500 to something was a really big deal for us. I mean, that was kind of a starting point. And then, we do like some super fun, like right now we're doing our breast cancer fundraiser for the Breast Cancer Network of Western New York. My thing is, if we're going to do something local, I want it to impact our local community, our local folks. And so I try, not that it's a bad thing, but I try to avoid the national, bigger nonprofit organizations because selfishly, I don't think it's making the same impact as the smaller organizations do. So that's whenever we do something like that, I'm just kind of looking at, let's have a conversation. I want to see what you guys are doing. Let's talk about it. And then typically, for the most part, we've got really phenomenal organizations, and these people end up being lifelong friends. And so that's it. I think, it's a pretty simple process. We just our team really rallied behind it. We get behind CompHERE, which is a local mental health awareness organization. We do work with the Autism Nature Trail down in Letchworth State Park, which, by the way, stands for ANT. So that was a really good kind of grouping for us. And so it's just kind of a nice way for us to kind of give back. Bobby Jenkins once said in a speech, he's like, it's good business doing good. Doing good is really good for business. And I firmly believe that. I think it's also one of those things that I'm going to be very selfish about. I feel really good doing good. So at the end of the day, I just, I don't want to go home acting like a selfish idiot. But I feel like it feels like I feel good about the work that we're doing and the money that we're utilizing from our customers. So that's like, and I think other people feel the same way too. And then, social media is like this big, huge thing. All of these nonprofits have these vast followings, right? So everyone sort of follows these feel-good organizations. And so again, you've got Eco Serve here with several thousand. You've got, let's say CompHERE with, 10,000, or Buddy Second Chance Rescue with 20,000. And it's like you get to be able to connect those two, and all of a sudden, all these people organically get to see your message and the feel good that you're trying to do. And it serves both ways. They're getting into the hands of the folks that connect with us, and we're getting into the hands that connect with them. And so it's just sort of this like really good, feel good social media.
So to Bobby's point, and maybe I'll go halfway to hell for this question, is have you been able to quantify it, the return on investment of,
No,
okay.
no.
So, because he's right? You do good, you get good, for your company. But, you spend a certain amount on marketing, you expect this many leads and close that many sales. You're not doing that. How about you, Donnie? Do you, when you do,
We do. And I think
there an
listen,
ROI on it?
there's not. I mean, here's what I'll tell you. I, um, I mean, much like Audrey, I love being able to support local charities, and we also do the same. And listen, I was so impressed with Bobby Jenkins, and I'm always impressed every time I go down to his. I call it the compound. But when I go to the compound, and I don't, I think you were with me, Dan, on this one
Yeah.
when we went down there, and they had those packets for the homeless folks, and
Yeah. The
his
techs just
technicians would
drive
just take
around
them.
and
Yeah, and hand them out. And he is correct. And can I quantify it? No. But at the same time, look, I am very, very, very fortunate to be in the position that I'm in. And I also have the means and the capability. And I just feel like that's just being a good person. And I'm not getting on some moral high horse here. I mean, I'm a dirtbag just like any other guy, right? But I'm just simply making the
Yeah.
point that, you know, it does, I feel a certain sense of responsibility to the community, because I operate in it, right? And the reality of it is that I'm never really looking for an ROI per se, obviously, but it's also, I guess I will, to your point, Dan, and I think I know where you're going with this. It's like anything, right? You can go overboard and just, spend way too much money, way too much time, you know, caring about other people's causes, and then eventually it actually hurts your business, right? At the same time, you could be completely selfish and focused on yourself and not really helping those around you, and that's not a good thing either. And so, like most things, the I think the good spot is kind of right in the middle, right? Trying
And
to
the
trying
last
to
thing I'll
bounce
say to
off.
that, and I think is a really important point here, is that like Bobby with the homeless, kits, you have to involve your team, right? So you
Hmm.
have to. So for our breast cancer awareness, we have our team out selling raffle tickets in the field. They're wearing pink gloves. They're promoting this kind of message together. I'm a big believer of let's not just write a check out. I want our team to be a part of the process, because I think anyone can write a check, and I think that there's an impact there, but I also think that there's just so much more when it comes to benefiting the organization. You probably have better retention rate with your team because they're working for a company that cares. You probably have some customers who are sitting there thinking like, okay, well, I, can't afford a service at my home. Do I want to get rid of the company that, cares about the autism nature trail and I've got a 12-year-old on a spectrum, or do I get rid of my lawn service that I never hear from? And so it's, those are decisions that you can't quantify. But like for me, I feel like the impact is completely there and it's completely worth it. And people tell me all the time, I see you all the time, and you got to talk about it too. Like you got to be out there on social media sharing these stories. But there is absolutely something to be said about being that company.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
For sure.
That's awesome.
Well, this has been fantastic. Audrey, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on the podcast. I think a lot of our folks are going to learn a lot from you, and congratulations on the company that you've built and what you're doing. I mean, it's all great work, and I've really enjoyed our time. Dan, anything to add before we finish out here?
Yeah, just a couple of things for those who are going to Pest World. We PCO bookkeepers as well as PMP Industry Insider. We are having a little golf tourney at it's a miniature golf tourney at Pop Strokes, and we're providing the bus and the food, the booze, and the prizes. And anybody who the team that wins will have a $1,500 amount that's given to their favorite charity. And also, I was asked by MPMA, we established through the foundation, the Management Foundation. So we have the PCO bookkeepers, M&A specialists, future accountants, and pest management scholarship. If you have a child who's interested, if you work in the industry and you have a child who's interested in the accounting field, by all means contact NPMA and apply for the scholarship. We set this up with there's probably about 10 or so other scholarships that are available. And so contact the NPMA Foundation. So we'll see how that goes. And other than that, I don't have anything. You, Donnie?
No, I don't. And again, Audrey, thank you so much for coming on. Just a reminder, all the resources and topics that we talked about today are going to be available on the podcast website. Just take a look at pmpindustryinsider.com. Take a look under show notes. You will see this show there and all of our previous shows as well. And as always, we appreciate any ratings and reviews that you have, and we ask that all complaints, comments, in general, just negativity, we point that at Dan. He really likes that. And with that, we're going to sign out. We'll see you all next time. Take care now. Bye.
Go Bill.
Bye.